All right, now yesterday we did the proportional problems where you had to, measure on a map and you had to, use that sense of scale to figure out the mileage between towns. So the scale that we used yesterday, what do you guys remember?
2,400 miles.
Yep.
And then 19 centimeters.
19 centimeters. All right, so that was our little scale. We're going to use the same scale. It's still the same map. We haven't changed maps yet. We'll look at new maps on Monday. We're going to look at the Iowa map on Monday. You kind of similar problems. You'll probably have your assignment on Monday for this. This little graph you have in front of you, you are going to turn this in today. So you're going to need to put your name on it if you haven't already. And we are going to turn this in. You're going to have to do your second part. So let's do a quick reminder. Let's do one problem. So on the back of your little map, you're going to put your work for this next one, okay? So we're going to find distances between towns. Let's go the distance from New York City to Oklahoma City. So New York City, so this will be one we're going to put on the back. So New York City, New York, and we're going to Oklahoma. Oklahoma City. Okay. So. Okay, there you go. So if you're looking for it, there you go. That's what we're trying to find right now. So we're going to put this on the back, set up your little proportion, figure out your numbers, don't say it out loud. You have your sense of scale, so you're going to need to measure in centimeters. Measure in centimeters, line up your zero correctly, don't use just the end of your ruler, line it up. New York City is right on the east coast there. It's on the tail end of New York State, so it's in the Long Island area, right next to Jersey. So you're going to measure it, go to Oklahoma City, set it next to your scale, do your cross, multiply, and dividing, put it on the back of that worksheet. Question?
Do you have an extra copy of it?
Yes, right here. Okay, we're gonna just do one of these because I think we did enough of these yesterday. I think you guys get the idea. We'll do more on Monday when we do the Iowa map. We'll do more practical ones. So put it on the back, do your math. Remember, the first step is you gotta measure. You gotta get super accurate. Can you figure out the measure between your particular cities? Did I give ever enough time to figure it out? What was the measurement? What do you guys get? How many centimeters?
10.2.
10 point what?
2.
Okay, I had more than that.
I had 10.6.
That's what I had 10.6 or 10.7. So your number will be a little bit smaller than us. That's fine. At least you got, had to be within that ballpark. 10.7 centimeters. Geez, couldn't get that out. And so you're going to put the 10.7 7. So 2,400 miles. All right, now, on the second fraction, where do you put your 10.2 in your case, or 10.7? Where do we put it?
On the bottom.
Bottom, yeah, because it has to line up correctly. The centimeters, it looks like the centimeters on the bottom, miles are on the top. You're gonna cross multiply, and we're gonna get to our, number. Now, the number I was getting about 1,035.
1,035.
Yeah, so 1,351, I guess, point something miles. Is that right? Is that roughly what you guys are getting? Have you used 10.7? Use 10.6 is probably slightly smaller than that, 1,200 something maybe. What was the mileage you guys came up with?
I got 1,338.
Okay, yeah, so, because you use 10.6, right? Yeah, so you're in the ballpark. There's a little bit of wiggle room there. So I use 10.7, so my number was slightly different than yours. It's fine. You're in the ballpark. You're in the general area. It was just kind of seeing, could you get the number? Could you get something that's kind of respectable? Because remember, this is a general idea. It's not going to be the exact number, especially if you're flying or driving there. Like, you're going to have to take different roads. You can't just go straight across the country like that. Okay, are we good on the first one? That's the stuff we did yesterday. It just comes down to did you measure, right? Okay. All right. Second problem is different. This is the new one today. So you're probably wondering, why do you have a geometrical compass in front of you? It is kind of a weird thing to have. Like, why do I need that? Okay. So there's a couple different ways to use compasses, or compi, or however you want to say it. But the one kind of useful thing is to know kind of what town could you go to? So, for instance, let's say that you're in your particular car, your car gets, let's say it gets 28 miles per gallon, right? 28 miles per gallon, that's pretty good. And you have a 14-gallon tank. You have a 14-gallon tank. Most cars are 12 to 14 gallons. If you have a smaller car, fine. But they're about that. How many miles could I drive? What do you do? How do I find out the miles I could drive? I get that type of gas mileage on average, and I have 14-gallon tank. What do? Do I multiply, divide? Do I add, subtract? What do I do with those two numbers?
Multiply.
You multiply them, right? Because miles per gallon is written like this. If you multiply by the gallons, what will happen? The gallons will cancel out and you'll be left with mileage. If I multiply those two together, what do I get?
392.
392 miles. Now, why that's important? This is how far you can drive in one tank of gas. Okay? All done? Okay, you can put it right on my desk. Thanks. It's right there, I'll grade it. Be in before the end of the day. Okay, so 392 miles. Now, let's say you're in Des Moines, Iowa. Des Moines, okay? And you're gonna drive 392 miles. So here you are, Des Moines, Iowa. You're gonna drive 392 miles. What cities could I drive to? That's the new problem. That's the new problem we're doing. Well, what city could I go to? Ooh, I have, a 20-gallon tank. Ooh, how far could I drive? Because now you're going on vacation, you're putting in consideration, if I only want to go on one tank of gas, how far could I make it? Will I make it really far? Will I not go anywhere at all? That's what I want to know. So here's how you do it. We know the mileage. 392 miles. Right? We know the miles. We know what my scale is for my map. Reverse the order of the problem. Put the miles in, cross, multiply, and divide, and that tells me how many centimeters I can travel. Okay, so do that right now. Take 392, multiply by 19, and divide by 2,400, right? Because you're gonna always start with a number above a little x, you cross, multiply diagonally, and divide. So 392 times the 19 divided by 2,400. What number am I getting?
3.1.
3.1. Okay, roughly? Or is it like 3.1 exact, or is it like 3.1?
3.10.
Okay. So 3.1. So we can travel 3.1 centimeters. That's what it's telling me. So here's what you need to do. You're gonna take your compass. Now, obviously I have this big plasticky, chunky thing. You're gonna take your compass and you're going to open it using the little gear, and you're gonna put it right on top of your ruler until it actually matches up, okay? I don't think, did I give you a compass yet?
No.
Okay, I'll give you one. I think it went to the back and I grabbed them. It's right here. I didn't hand it to you. I got it. Got to give it to you. All right. So you're going to open up your compass to 3.1. So again, how you open up your compass, use the little gear, don't pull it apart. Open it up so it starts at 0. So use the pencil, line up the pencil with 0, the pike with 3.1. And then when you have that measurement, you're going to go to your map with your compass. And I'll explain. Just for right now, all I need to do is just figure out that number. Okay, what 3.1 is.
From where?
From Des Moines. So have your compass kind of set. I'll kind of walk you through what you need to do once you get your compass set to 3.1. All right.
Indianapolis.
Okay, so you got your compass set to 3.1, correct? You measure it? All right, so once you have that dialed in, you're gonna put the little pike on Des Moines, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna actually draw a circle around your map. So where the pike is right on Des Moines, you actually draw a circle. Like that. Draw a full circle. It doesn't have to draw it too dark. You can fill it in later with your normal pencil. It doesn't have to be real light. Here's the trick. If you ever want to draw a really nice circle on a piece of paper, don't move the compass, turn the paper. That's how you draw it really easy. You turn the paper, not the compass. The compass, just keep it steady, and then just turn the paper around it. So. All right. Now again, what city can we hit? I think Casey even said it. I could go to Indianapolis. In fact, I could almost hit Fort Wayne.
Here.
Yeah.
Duluth.
Duluth. Yeah.
Oh, Toulouse.
Fargo almost.
Toulouse is right on the line.
Toulouse. Where's Toulouse?
In Oklahoma.
Oh, Tulsa.
That's how you pronounce
Tulsa.
Tulsa.
I was like, Toulouse? I don't know that.
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Tulsa, yeah. Fort Smith. Almost exactly, yeah, Peoria is probably like right on it. Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Fort Smith. You can get to the upper peninsula of Michigan. That's kind of cool. I've never been up there before. Fargo. So, yeah, you can get pretty wild. Just see how far you can travel. I think this is a cool concept. This is within the realm of you driving with one tank of gas. Now, a real practical application of this, and this is going to be far-fetched, but it was on a CSI episode. A criminal stole a vehicle, full tank of gas. How far could they drive? You just did it. They knew what car it was. They knew it had a full tank of gas. How far could they drive? They could drive that far. So obviously for theirs, they're out in like Las Vegas at the time for the CSI episode. So they were trying to figure out what cities they could go to, and then they just put out an APB to the cities that were in that general area. Did you make it that far? Kind of the cool concept, but it's a real life application of it. Seeing how far a criminal could go. If this is the case, that's a pretty big swath of land.
It's kind of like the episode where the truckers keep stealing women and then killing, freezing their bodies and dumping them on the side of the road.
It's weird, and they just kind of used a circle to figure out where it was.
Well,
the
he
center
was
of it.
taking interstates because he was driving a semi.
Okay, interesting. All right. You see the circle that I've drawn on your paper? Have you ever watched the movie Castaway
Yes.
with Tom Hanks? Castaway. Well, it's a movie you should watch. It's interesting. He's a postal worker. His plane goes down, and he's deserted on an island. He's castaway, and he lives there several years. I believe it's based on a real life story where somebody actually survived an island for multiple years of their life, and the idea was that he did a quick calculation in the movie that's, it said, he got off course, and in pre-calc and calc we talk about this problem, we actually do the math of it. But he gets off course because they went around a storm and they flew for so many hours. So that told me like when he's flying, they took a different direction and flew. So when he was on his flight path and they couldn't radio it in, that would be the circle of like the radius that they'd have to search to go find him. You start with where he deviated to where he eventually went down, and you draw a large circle. And the circle was literally like 500 square miles. It was half the United States in terms of searching distance out in the ocean. So no wonder they couldn't find him. I mean, out in the ocean, 500 square miles, which the circle was bigger than this, but it was like this big. If you think about that, if you're out in the ocean and you're looking for one gentleman in a plane, think about this size of a circle and one person's in the middle of it. You see how hard of a search that is? And like on paper, it doesn't look bad. You're in the middle of a state. It's like searching for you, just standing here in Garner in the middle of that circle and nothing else is around you. It's like border impossible to find that. He just happened to be stumbled upon. And it's one of those weird things when you think about it in that terms. When you go out to different countries, like there may not be a person within a few hundred miles of you if you're out in like a weird country, like especially like Canada, the upper provinces of Canada, or if you're out in like Montana and Wyoming, like there's just a lot of wilderness. There's not a lot there. So it's kind of wild when you start to think about like if you were to break down, like you have a long ways to walk, or you're gonna have to hopefully have a cell phone that works, or a satellite phone, or somebody can search what path you were taking so they can come get you. So that's always important if you're taking a trip. Let somebody else know the exact traveling plans you're taking, so if you were to break down, they can go find you on the exact path you took. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things you don't think about. Let's do one more of these. So let's say we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna start in a different area now. Let's do the California idea. So we're gonna start out in California. So this will be our last problem today. We're gonna start out in San Francisco. We're gonna start here. So San Francisco. And let's say that your car gets, let's say you're in a Prius, and your car gets 60 miles per gallon, and your little tank can hold 11 gallons of fuel. So you're in California, you get 11 gallons of fuel in your little Prius, you get 60 miles per gallon on average. It gets more than that, by the way, but we'll just say it's 60 if you're going up and down the mountains. How far can I drive?
660 miles.
660 miles. Okay, 660 miles. And I want to know, now, what cities could you drive to in one tank of fuel with your little Prius? So, 660, put this on the back. You should probably be putting this math on the back. That's miles. 2,400 miles. I'm looking for centimeters here. Right? That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for centimeters. Let's see what you come up with. Don't say it out loud. Once you have your centimeters, you figure it out. Measure it out on your little compass. And then we'll draw it. So I've got to do a lot of steps here. figure out your distance you can cover. Make sure you change your compass so it matches up with that. Use a little gear in the middle and then draw your little circle. Okay, so what cities do we hit?
Phoenix.
Phoenix. What else?
Ogden.
Is that the one in the middle?
It's in Utah.
It's Ogden, I believe.
Ogden.
Ogden.
Iowa. Idaho Falls.
Yep. Idaho Falls, you're probably just out of range of that one. I think it's just a little bit past that. Boise, Portland, Salem, Eugene, almost Salt Lake City. Yeah, Phoenix. So you can go down to Mexico.
Portland.
So yeah, Portland. You can hit any major city in California. You can cover all of Nevada, all of Oregon, half of Utah and Arizona and Idaho, and so you can cover a lot. One tank of fuel can get you really far, as long as you're not stuck in traffic and you're not getting slowed down by that. It's kind of wild what cars can do anymore. That's 11 gallons of fuel. That's being super economical. Obviously, you're not going to probably get that all the time if you're driving up in the mountains and whatnot, but in theory, you could drive that. That's why those cars are so kind of desirable. That they get such good gas mileage, and they have the electric engine, so that the electric engine can carry you further. So when you run out of fuel, it can keep driving, which is kind of a weird concept. So you might actually make it to Idaho Falls, in theory. So, it's one of those things like, people like them. It's a big thing out in California to have a Prius, not just for the namesake. They're a big fan of Tesla out there because electric and stuff. They don't have to pay as much for fuel. Electricity is really cheap for them. But the other thing is, like, the car's worth a lot of money. Like, it doesn't depreciate like other cars do. I know that seems really weird. Like, Jeeps around here in Iowa, Jeeps are worth their weight. If you have a Jeep, it can hold its value really, really well in Iowa. A Prius holds its value really well because look at what you could do with it. That's not normal. Now my car was the last example you saw. This is a Prius. It can go way further than anything you think it can. It's faster than most cars are because the electric engines are instant torque. I know people hate them, they don't like the look of them, I understand. But just think about this, you could buy a Prius and it doesn't depreciate. It's almost like renting the car for free because you can sell it again for almost the price you paid for it. As opposed to if you bought a Mercedes-Benz, it depreciates. A 2016 Mercedes, 2016 is 20 grand now. 20 grand. It started at 120. 4 years depreciation, the car lost 100 grand in value. I'd be raging mad. But a Prius didn't. A Prius lost about 2 to 3 grand off its value. That's way better than losing 100 grand on a car. Those are little things like from the last chapter I still want you to think about. Smart purchases. Always look at depreciation. How long are you going to keep the car? How much are you paying for it? What can you resell it for? Because at some point you will have to sell it. You're not going to keep the car forever. Those are little things you should think about. Yeah, and the only reason I stumbled upon that is because I was looking at this problem, trying to figure out what cars could travel the furthest. A Prius was number one on the list because it can go so far because of its gas mileage. And then I was looking at like, geez, what is the depreciation on a car like that? And this doesn't depreciate. They hold their value really well. As opposed to, I was looking at cars about the same price. You could buy a Mercedes, 2016 Mercedes, a 2015 BMW. You could buy a 2006 Porsche 911. You could buy a Volvo XC90, which is the highest end Volvo that I can make. You could buy pretty much any Volkswagen, any Ford other than a truck. There's just like little things. Jeeps you couldn't even afford for that price. They hold their value too well. So like little things like that. I just want you to think about the implications of it. But yeah, look at that. It's pretty impressive. I want this turned in. Put your name on it, date. We're gonna turn in. You're gonna get some points. Put the little compass and little straight edge back in your bag. We're gonna look at that on Monday again. We'll look at kind of very similar problems. I need to come up with an interesting way how to do Iowa without drawing on my map. So I'm gonna try to come up with a creative way. Maybe we'll have to use some tracing, like drawing paper and stuff, some clear paper, some see-through overheads.
Do you want this in here?
Yeah. Yep.